I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Roy Hui, founder of LightLink. Roy, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be talking to you today.
Yeah, I've seen LightLink across the Twitter sphere. I saw the mainnet is going crazy right now with the amount of transactions and adoption. I'm excited to dive in with that with you today. But I'd love to start off our conversation, first of all, by learning a little bit more about your background in business and blockchain and how that led to founding LightLink. And then we can dive into all the latest details.
Sure, not a problem. I've been a technology entrepreneur for the past 17 years. So a very long time building all kinds of different businesses. Have a bit of background in engineering, computer science. So I'm a technical co-founder. Still try to develop from time to time, getting to our code base, but our engineers largely tell me to stay out of it. Um, I've built media companies, video gaming communities, and e-commerce companies in the past, and that gave me a really good overall perspective of how to do business across the world with an agile team, with a very high-performing engineering capability, and also seeing things from many different perspectives, not only from pure Web3 DJ lens, but also seeing, for a much wider adoption, if we believe this to be the future of our financial industry, of our humanity, of our digital infrastructure, how do we get there, right? Because we can't get there alone ourselves. We need the support of many large industries, existing institutions for us to really be the future of all the things that we want to be.
Very well said, Roy. And I love that you are a technical co-founder. I feel like that's so important because, especially when you're building an infrastructure as vast as LightLink and a protocol itself to support so many different applications in different industries, you need to understand the inner workings. So I would love to hear a little bit more about those inner workings of LightLink, maybe just a high-level overview of it and the vision that you set out with your team when you started building it.
Yeah, certainly. We've been building in the blockchain space for the past 6 years under a solutions business called Pella. And over the past, since 2017, we've helped numerous businesses to build on-chain technology from asset tokenization to currency trading to NFT projects, and we saw the shortcomings of existing capabilities. So, for example, we were minting thousands of NFTs on Ethereum for Australian Open, as example. We saw transaction fees skyrocketed because many people wanted to participate at the same time, and the technology didn't have the capacity to cater for hundreds and thousands or thousands of users simultaneously. And looking at the Web2 scalable background that I had, it was quite amazing to see it's such an innovative technology, but it just didn't have the capacity to service what it could be used for. So when we saw the shortcomings, we decided to roll up our sleeves and, just like all good engineers do, go back to our first principles and look at what does it look like if we build and try to add scalability ourselves. And that's essentially how LightLink came to be. We tried to build solutions to solve the problems that we saw in the industry, predominantly scalability and predictability. When we talk to CEOs and CTOs in the organization that we've had the opportunity to work with, they constantly struggle with gas fees. When you look at, paying for a transaction Matic or BNB or ETH, it's largely denominated in a native currency, which fluctuates with speculation. And it's difficult for existing industries, existing businesses to grasp that concept. They're used to AWS, Google Cloud, where they can pay say, a compute capability for a period of month and it's $500. It's predictable. And if they did that for 6 months, they know it's $3,000. So in the crypto world, if you have to prepay transactions for your customers, it's really hard to predict how much your infrastructure is going to cost 3 months from now or 30 days from now. So we try to solve that problem by adding the predictability capability on top of LightLink,
Mhm.
and that's the enterprise mode.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of major companies like that use case you mentioned with the Australian Open, whether they're trying to mint an NFT or something on the blockchain as a part of their new business plan. And if it's on Ethereum, all of a sudden, the price triples one day. That's I feel like large corporations need that predictability to be able to forecast months or years in advance to know what they're getting into, so that they don't all of a sudden end up spending way more than they planned. And the same goes for those other chains that you mentioned. Yeah, maybe the transaction fees are lower on BNB or Matic, but if you have to hold that currency, it still can be 20 to 30% swings in the market if you have a bunch of it in your wallet, depending on where Bitcoin's going. I feel like this is a major problem that enterprises or institutions that are used to the predictability. They don't love the volatility of crypto because they run a traditional business. I feel like that's a major issue. It would be great if they could pay with stable coins or something predictable, like you're saying with LightLink. So how exactly does that work for bringing stability for businesses that are looking at implementing this?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So Lightlink offers two gas modes. The first is the public mode. So it behaves just like many other public blockchains. You deploy Solidity contract, you bridge over Ether, and you use the chain as you would, just like Optimism, Arbitrum, so on and so forth. Now, for enterprise applications, enterprise customers can prepay gas for their customers. So they would use Lightning just like how they would use AWS. They require capacity. They purchase that capacity in fiat, in a stable coin, and they are guaranteed to have that capacity. So we try to make it a little bit easier for them to interact with the blockchain.
Mm-hmm. And when I spoke with early enterprise adoption of blockchain in the past cycles, 5 or 6 years ago, often the solution they were looking for to remove Ethereum gas fees was just to have a private or permissioned blockchain that was not really decentralized. It was a corporate blockchain. Is that the case here, or are you bringing a different solution where it's actually a public chain with that predictability?
Yeah, great question. We have actually been building enterprise blockchains for the past 6 years. And the issue with that is these blockchains were isolated economies. It didn't really interoperate with, all the beautiful things that we see in the DeFi space, in the NFT space, or the infrastructure that's built by, hundreds of thousands of developers who are building on top of a public network. So Lightlink is a attempt also to address that by firstly, it's a public, open, permissionless network. Anybody can build on top of LightLink, and many people are. And by activating enterprise mode, you're essentially toggling a smart contract from gas pay to gasless transactions. And that smart contract is on the same network, like many all the other smart contracts. They're interoperable, they're composable, and they work with each other.
That's great to hear. And with you and your team working directly with enterprises on adopting the technology, I feel like there's a lot of people that, at least the crypto native people, they're so excited to actually use this technology in the real world, whether it's for the Australian Open, as you mentioned, or from Starbucks as a part of their loyalty program, or anything where there's sort of NFTs or crypto involved. What would you say is like sort of the level of adoption that we're at of interest from enterprises bringing blockchain into everyday businesses that have millions of customers that maybe don't know anything about crypto, or say it's Starbucks or something like that? Is there a lot of demand that for the enterprises that you're working with, or new ones that are reaching out?
Yeah, I think the last cycle we saw a tremendous uptake on interest. That fizzled out quite a bit in the bear market, but it we've received tremendous amount of inbound requests in the last cycle when we saw large sporting events were getting experimenting this space. I think as the market heats up a bit more, there will probably be a bit more attention coming to the space, and that attention will return. So we've certainly seen a decline of interest, but on the other side, I think this technology is out of the bag, right? All the reserve banks in the world are experimenting with a digital currency, or the larger consulting companies, advertising companies, agencies have a Web3, arm attached to their previous offerings. So yeah, I think there's interest, and for that interest to fully realize its potential, it really needs the infrastructure, and that's what we've built. Over the past couple of years, we saw the problem, and we try to build infrastructure where millions of people can come and interact with this new technology.
That's a great point. And how important do you think is the end user experience of making sure that the people don't have to learn about blockchain wallets or NFTs, how it functions, just to get a ticket to a game, for example? Is that something that you help the enterprises with as well, or do they have to at some point sort of meet you in the middle?
Yeah, I think it's tremendously important, right? Getting a user to download MetaMask, store their seed phrases securely, acquire a native token for the transaction to occur. It's tremendously difficult. There's a huge barrier to entry. And if we want the industry to grow, we really need to improve the user experience. And I think the current user experience isn't great. So when we work with larger companies, we try to advise on how can we improve that user experience. And LightLink is able to offer parts of that solution. So for example, gas abstraction is a key one. For a user to interact with that smart contract, to acquire a ticket for a sporting event, to validate that ticket, when they enter a sporting event on the fly in real time, it's just really difficult with many other public blockchains. And on LightLink, it's a gasless experience and has the ability to cater for hundreds and thousands of users simultaneously. In fact, we're working with 3 different ticketing startups at the moment on realizing their ticketing ambition on top of LightLink directly.
Wow, that's very cool. And I was just going to ask that. I've heard a lot around it, and in fact, I actually founded a blockchain ticketing company, albeit it was in 2017, before NFTs really even existed, and we were just on the verge of implementing it as well. But I've been waiting for the moment where Ticketmaster or some stadium that has 50, 100,000 people all are getting NFTs. How close do you think we are for major American stadiums to start implementing this to people that have no idea what crypto are? They just want to go to the game.
Yeah, I think that transition from paper-based tech to digital tech is largely seamless, right? You might get a PDF, it might be a QR code, it might be delivered through a type of encryption over a certain communication protocol. But a lot of that infrastructure is seamless and transparent to the user. And I think blockchain, in a way, it should be a infrastructure technology. It is an infrastructure technology. It just has many other characteristics that in the previous generations that we haven't had, like value, like encryption, or other really interesting attributes. So I think as a ticketing or a consumer-facing technology company, you'll be investigating technology and experimenting with technology. I think Ticketmaster has already implemented parts of the technology on chain, where hundreds of millions of tickets were generated using a digital ledger of some kind. But whether it would be, front and center, I'm not sure. I think consumers, users, sports fans would just go to the event and see their ticket, and they go through the gates and it works. That's all they care about. Maybe after the event, that ticket will be turned into a digital collectible, a souvenir. And then you can look at this souvenir to say, I was at this event with my friends, with my kids, and I had a great time. Maybe you can send those tickets or digital memorabilia to other people. So that technology can be facilitated, just like you said, using NFT, but it might be largely transparent to the user. That's how I'm seeing things.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the crypto nerds that are geeking out over, hey, we made this technology work, and of course there are many benefits to tokenizing it rather than just having a digital PDF. But all of that sort of subtly goes into the value add. So I'm personally excited to see that happen to mainstream events. And Roy, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was looking through the Twitterverse and I saw the mainnet for LightLink, and there's like millions of transactions, and there's a lot happening, a lot of growth. Maybe you can just talk about sort of the recent successes of the mainnet and where exactly your team is at with it.
Yeah, we launched our mainnet October last year and bootstrapped using a Galaxy campaign, asking users to come and participate and interact with various activities online. I think our ecosystem is still fairly young. There are still relatively little amount of interactions that you can have as a crypto DJ. But we're working really hard with many developers, dApps, larger ecosystems to grow our LightLink ecosystem. So I would say gaming will probably be the most utilized on our blockchain. Our team has created this abstraction layer called Bolt, where game studios, game developers can essentially create on-chain transactions with one API call, and that largely solved a lot of their technical challenges of learning how to code Solidity or dealing with on-chain transactions. We essentially want to simplify that as much as possible. And by simplifying it, they use more of it. So we have games that's creating a record at the end of game completion, like Grapes, for example, and creating a game like Tally Up, or creating crypto assets every time a transaction happens. So there are a lot of games that's utilizing technology because it offer that scalability, but it's no way near as the amount of things that's about to come.
No, I'm super excited for the Web3 gaming side, and the market size is huge. Half the world practically is playing either some kind of casual game or hardcore gaming. So when that technology, hopefully LightLink plays a large role in that, bringing Web3 blockchain in with gaming is the perfect natural fit. So I'm personally super excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
And looking through the underlying technology, I understand that LightLink is EVM compatible, layer 2. So does that mean that if there are Web3 games that are already built or that are working on it, or people already have dApps on Ethereum, for example, can they pivot the application to LightLink to save the gas costs? Or how easy is it to move existing infrastructure from other blockchains to LightLink?
Yeah. Great question. There are two answers to this. Firstly, LightLink is EVM equivalent, so you can copy and paste your existing smart contract and deploy on top of LightLink with a different endpoint, and that's it. We wanted to make it as seamless as possible, as easy as possible to redeploy on LightLink. And by being on top of LightLink network, you can have tremendously more capability, and we have a fairly interesting ecosystem, grants program, incentives for developers to come and build on top of LightLink. On the other thought that we had is you don't need to go all in one chain. So for example, if you already have a PFP on Ethereum or Polygon, you can do scalable transactions on a different chain. Purely because Ethereum right now might be the chain with the most interoperability, with the most liquidity, with the most users, but it's very difficult for you to do leveling up information, XP, or unlocking achievements on top of Ethereum. It just doesn't make sense, right? So that architecture can be stretched over two chains. One, you have your PFP or your tokens, and the other side, you might have your gamification, which is high velocity, substantially more transactions, and low latency, low cost. So LightLink would be a perfect candidate for that.
Well, that's great to hear. And I also read something about the Celestia blockchain as part of the underlying technology. Maybe you can touch on how that fits in and why that's a good fit for LightLink.
Yeah. Layer 2 technology spanned over a array of different shades. So you might have optimism that's implementing an optimistic rollup type of technology where every single transaction is stored on the layer 1 Ethereum itself. And that type of architecture is fairly costly because you require substantial block space on layer 1. And we all hope layer 1 can, through various upgrades, through for 4, for example, introduce more capacity on layer 1. But the amount of required space, in my opinion, is substantially greater than those that's offered on layer 1. So on the other side, you have a architecture like LightLink. It's called Optimium, and we store our data in a separate place. And in this case, it's Celestia. And we would do all the calculations on the blockchain and post proofs onto Ethereum. So instead of posting everything onto Ethereum, we post data, the most expensive part of Celestia, where data is a lot more cost effective, and Celestia holds that data securely, and it's decentralized. It's a lot more secure from an architectural perspective, and we post the proofs onto Ethereum itself. It's just a different architecture, and by implementing that architecture, we can save our costs substantially, and therefore pass on that cost saving to our customers.
That's great to hear, and thank you for explaining that. I've seen so much on Celestia, and I feel like it's a great addition. It's been really hot since you guys launched in the mainnet in Q3, Q4 of last year. It seems like it's only continuing to grow and help the blockchain ecosystem altogether. So it's great to hear that LightLink is also using Celestia.
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
had another question around enterprises and the NFT side. From the perspective of what companies outside of blockchain see NFTs or the word NFT, it can mean so much. Most people see it as graphics or profile picture or a representation of something that's tokenized. Do you think that there's a negative or positive perspective when enterprises are looking to, hey, we want to implement blockchain versus we want to implement NFTs? Is there a hurdle to jump over still for people to understand truly what that can mean for the company?
Yeah, there definitely is. But before jumping to that, I just wanted to underline we are the most heaviest user of Celestia
Oh,
on Coco
wow.
Testnet. I think we use like 21% of the entire Celestia capacity.
Wow.
And that architecture change would be rolled into mainnet relatively soon, I think in the
Hmm.
coming weeks. So it'd be interesting to see how much we actually use in mainnet Celestia. It'd be
Incredible.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're like the top chain that's using the capacity.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
that flows really nicely to the next question, which is, enterprise sentiment. I think because value being USDT or Ether being the native layer of this technology, it has attracted a lot of, scammers or, not so fundamental projects. And that really shun away the enterprise adoption as much as we like. In the bull cycle, occasionally you will get news articles talking about how this industry is full of scams, and that sentiment certainly is carried out in other conversations that we've had from a business development perspective. Now, I think in the early days of the internet, in the early days of other forms of media or technology, we've seen similar things. But as a technology uh, adopting enterprise customer, I think if you're able to see past that and understand this is a technology, it's a asymmetric encryption, it's a decentralized computation platform, it's a smart contracting layer, it's a highly available capability, right? So if you see the technology for what it is, you past the negative short-term sentiments, and I think if we uh, as as a blockchain industry, if we want to grow, we really need to welcome the world to come and participate. And I think as we're seeing more and more adoption of technology, whether if it's musicians or artists or sporting events, it certainly adds that extra level of legitimacy and validation to the technology. And I think, we're mostly there, comparing to 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago when you started, I think the industry is still, very uncertain, unestablished, right? But now, when we talk about blockchain tech, I think most people would recognize it's a technology. It's a technology that has
Yeah.
gone through its growing phase and it's here to stay.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think especially on the tickets, with traditional tickets, there have been, especially with popular events, there are a lot of scams or fake tickets in traditional events. So if anything, it can stop that scamming and sort of like play to the opposite of, hey, this isn't a scam. It's actually preventing scams. I think that's once we see that adoption, that people understand that the ticket is safer on these blockchain ticketed events, hopefully
Yeah.
that spreads the word to enterprises and large corporations in all industries.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. It actually opens up new business models, right? Because for companies, businesses to adopt this technology, there has to be a commercial reason for them to. Ticketing is a great example. Secondary sales, resellers of technology, of tickets. It's very difficult for the artists, for the venue, for the ticket provider to capture that secondary revenue. Where blockchain as an NFT, you can use because there's only one smart contract, there's only one, type of tickets. You can bake into the smart contract every time a transaction happens, a royalty is paid to the organization. So it creates a new form of revenue, which might be very welcoming to established businesses.
Great point. And what else? I'm curious for the future, Roy. What else is in the roadmap? The mainnet's super successful. They're gaining more enterprises interested in joining the chain. What is part of the roadmap for the rest of 2024 moving into next year?
Yeah, we firstly, from a technical perspective, would like to keep on iterating, innovating, and building in this space. So our new architecture change from where we are to a release called Hummingbird would be launched in a couple of weeks, and that would underline the Celestia utilization that I was talking about earlier. And to build on top of that, we would like everybody to contribute to our network security and decentralization. So we'll be offering validator nodes as a capability for people to run to ensure all the transactions are processed correctly, securely, and it matches the proofs that we post on layer one. So that node would be available in a couple of months from now. And we also need to do what we said we would do. And there will be lots of really interesting news in the pipeline to talk about the Web2 enterprise applications and partnerships that we have formed.
Very cool. And I can imagine that enterprises working with LightLink would want to run validator nodes and be contributing to the network. But from what I understand, anybody can contribute to becoming a validator. Would that require like getting the LightLink governance token and staking it, or how can people learn more about it and contribute to that when it becomes available?
Yeah, there will be some kind of incentives baked into this capability, and therefore, you're incentivized to run this infrastructure software capability, right? So, yeah, Lightning token will be a part of this equation. It's a governance token, but it's also used to reward participants in the network. To learn more, follow us on LightLink on Twitter, as well as on our website. We'll have plenty more information coming through.
Sounds great, right? I can add that into the show notes, and I'm personally excited and interested for when that launches. And the Hummingbird upgrade sounds pretty cool as well. So I'm definitely going to be following along with your team's initiatives. And please solve, NFT enterprise adoption so we can have NFTs in all of these large corporations when we're buying coffee, buying flight tickets, buying tickets for an event. that would be something that, as a crypto nerd, I would love to see adopted into the mainstream. So I really do appreciate your time. And I'm wishing you guys all the best and success in implementing this into the greater world, so people can actually reap the benefits of blockchain and tokenization.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Ashton. Thanks for all those kind words, and we're certainly trying and watching us build.